Corey Anderson here. Today is Saturday, the 18th of June, and right now it is 10:31 in the morning. My brother's on his way over here right now, so I decided to make this quick video. I was listening to my lovely brainwave music off of Rhapsody. This one is called Mental Exercise. I listen to a lot of brainwave music. It's sound and words are very, very important. They're very, very powerful. It's amazing the effect music has on the state of mind that you could be in. It's amazing the state of mind it could set you in. Okay. Let's continue, shall we? The Science of Being Well, Chapter 13, in a nutshell. There is a cosmic life which permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe, being in and through all things. This life is not merely a vibration or form of energy. It is a living substance. All things are made from it. It is all and in all. This substance thinks, and it assumes the form of that which it thinks about. The thought of a form in this substance creates the form. The thought of a motion institutes the motion. The visible universe, with all its forms and motions, exists because it is in the thought of original substance. Okay, so he's saying everything in form exists in the thought of the all-mind. Okay. This substance thinks. Remember, he's saying man is a thinking center. Okay. When we think, we are forming our own thought forms within our own mind. We are creating that mental picture. You know, they talk about visualizing, they talk about idealization, they talk about concentration and attention, all these things to keep your thought form steadily held to a purpose with the power of the will. Okay, because it assumes the form of that which it thinks about. Remember the greatest secret of all. Man is what he thinks about. A man becomes what he thinks about most of the time. The thought of a form in this substance creates the form. So whatever thought forms you hold habitually, whatever thought forms you have habitually held in mind, will eventually manifest itself in your character and conduct, both in the within and the without. That was actually pretty good. Oh, let's continue. And thought of a motion institutes the motion. The thought of grabbing these Beats case institutes me actually moving and grabbing the case. Remember how we talked about the levels of creation? Thought, words, and actions. You can't take actions until you first think of taking action. And you can't change anything until you take the action to make it happen. Okay, let us continue. The visible universe, with all its forms and motions, exists because it is in the thought of original substance. Man is a form of original substance and can think original thoughts, and within himself man's thoughts have controlling or formative power. The thought of a condition produces that condition. The thought of a motion institutes that motion. So long as man thinks of the conditions of motions and diseases, so long will the conditions and motions of diseases exist within him. Within him. Remember, thoughts, emotions, and feelings are all subconscious. Okay, they're all inner activities. If a man will think only of perfect health, the principle of health within him will maintain perfect conditions. To be well, man must form a conception of perfect health and hold thoughts harmonious with that conception as regarding himself and all things. He must think only of healthy conditions and functioning. He must not permit a thought of unhealthy or abnormal conditions or functionings to find lodgment in his mind at any time. In order to think only of healthy conditions and functioning, man must perform the voluntary acts of life in a perfectly healthy way. He cannot think perfect health as long as he knows that he is living in the wrong or unhealthy way, or even so long as he has doubts as to whether or not he is living in a healthy way. Man cannot think thoughts of perfect health while his voluntary functions are performed in the manner of one who is sick. which is why I was saying it is important what we put into our body. It is important what we eat, because everything we put into our body is going to affect us just the same way as everything we think about ourselves. They're just two halves of the complete whole. One becomes from the material side of our being, and one comes from the spiritual side of our being. Okay, thinking healthy thoughts is the spiritual side of it. Okay, actually taking the necessary steps to be healthy physically is a totally different ball game. Okay, it involves a lot of discipline and a lot of discipline. That's pretty much a lot of work and discipline. Okay. Man cannot think thoughts of perfect health if the voluntary functions are performed in a manner of one who is sick. The voluntary functions of life are eating, drinking, breathing, and sleeping. When man thinks only of healthy conditions and functioning, and performs these externals in a perfectly healthy manner, he must have perfect health. In eating, a person must learn to be guided by his hunger. He must distinguish between hunger and appetite, and between hunger and the cravings of habit. He must never eat unless he feels an earned hunger. Now remember, hunger is a message from your subconscious mind telling you to eat, so it could digest the food and use it to build new cell material to keep your physical being alive. Appetite is simply you wanting to eat something out of habit. Okay, your body's not asking for it, but you just simply want to eat it. That's appetite. He must learn that genuine hunger is never present after natural sleep, and that the demand for an early morning meal is purely a matter of habit and appetite. And he must not begin his day by eating in violation of natural law. And there is one thing that I just want to add to that. Okay, that may be how it is for Wallace. Okay, since he was a book writer and a pioneer, and he was one of the brain thinkers. Okay, he was the brain thinker in the example of what he wrote in this book. People more like us would be the wood chopper. Okay, me personally, I'm a fitness trainer. Okay, I do feel a little bit hungry when I wake up in the morning. I firmly believe I'm probably exerting a lot more physical energy than Wallace did when he had wrote these books. He sold these books. He was a pioneer. He had already made it. He had his life set and everything was good and going. Things back there, food back then was a lot healthier. Okay, a lot more people were a lot healthier. Okay, it's just how it was naturally back then. Okay, nowadays it's not like that. Okay, nowadays we're in the era where the majority of people are overweight and unhealthy, and that's the normal now, when the fit people or healthy people are this little group in the corner which are living life in the most natural way, because they are taking care of their body. Remember, we can't live to the fullest unless we are healthy, we are fit. Okay, we can't live to the fullest unless we have books for intellect. Remember, mind, body, and spirit. Okay, the only way we can live life to the fullest is in all three. Okay, no one over the other. Okay, each balanced within our own lives. And yeah, how I was going there before. Okay, since he is the bookworker, okay, we will be more like those wood choppers. Okay, it is fine to eat something small right after you wake up. Remember, breakfast. Why is it called breakfast? Breakfast split up is break fast. Okay, from going to sleep to waking up in the morning, that's as long as you go without eating. Okay, as long as your body goes with just the food it has overnight. Okay, and as you're resting, I agree with him on that. Okay, yes, you're going to be replenishing a lot of energy, and all the food you're digesting, your body's going to use that, and it's just going to help build itself even stronger and better. Okay, but we should still eat something small right when we wake up, even if it's hunger or appetite, because we're still breaking that fast. And we're providing the foundation for our body to have the energy and nutrition it needs to start our day. And that's how we get started with our day. He must wait until he has an earned hunger, which, in most cases, will make his first meal come at about the noon hour. No matter what his condition, vocation, or circumstances, he must make it his rule not to eat until he has an earned hunger. And also, by the time we hit noon hour, a lot of us are at work. A lot of us won't be getting a break for like another hour, or even lunch for another 2 hours. Okay, that's a long time. Even if you're hungry at that time, you have to wait to eat. You have to wait till your lunchtime to eat. And for that 2 hours, your body's going to be eating itself, because that's what it does. When you're hungry and you're not eating, the body will start pulling from its own meat supply, which is your muscles. Start breaking down its own protein. I know we were talking about this in another video. Do this process called gluconeogenesis to turn all that protein into carbs, because carbs are the body's main source of energy, also known as protein sparers, in order to keep the body alive and going. Literally, we're fighting for our lives. Okay, no matter what his condition, vocation, or circumstances, he must make it his rule not to eat until he has an earned hunger. And he may remember that it is far better to fast for several hours after he has become hungry than to eat before he begins to feel hunger. Okay, may remember that it is far better to fast for several hours after he has become hungry than to eat before he begins to feel hunger. Let's see his reason for that. It will not hurt you to go hungry for a few hours, even though you are working hard, but it will hurt you to fill your stomach when you are not hungry, whether you are working or not. If you never eat until you have an earned hunger, you may be certain that in so far as the time of eating is concerned, you are proceeding in a perfectly healthy way. This is a self-evident proposition. I get where he's coming from with that. You know, to each their own. Whatever works for you guys. Okay, go for it. Let's continue. As to what he shall eat, a person must be guided by the intelligence which has arranged that the people of any given proportion of the earth's surface must live on the staple products of the zone which they inhabit. Have faith in God, and ignore, quote, food science, end quote, of every kind. Do not pay the slightest attention to the controversies as to the relative merits of cooked and raw foods, of vegetables and meats, or as to your need for carbohydrates and proteins. Eat only when you have an earned hunger, and then take the best foods of the healthy people in the zone in which you live, and have perfect conditions that the results will be good. They will be. Okay. I can't agree with him when he says ignore the food science of every kind, because science has come so far in a way. Science has come so far that they are where they are now, where people could literally pinpoint exactly how much protein they need, how much carbs they need, how much veggies they need, how much healthy fats they need to be intaking. People are literally to that point. Science has gotten to that point where we could pinpoint the exact amount, okay, that we need throughout the entire day. Now that is what I call evolution. That is what I call moving forward in life, where people could just write down on a paper, okay, do this simple little math problem, okay, take the proteins, look at the things that are going to be taking the protein from, how many grams of protein it has, how many fats it has, how many calories it has, how many, all this and that, okay. The nutrition is very important. It's very important to know how to read the nutrition, okay, and everything that you're eating, okay, because they must be given to you in certain forms and fashions, okay. You must eat it in a certain way. Okay, you gotta have your proteins, you gotta have your carbs, and you always gotta have your vegetables. You gotta have your healthy fats. Okay, remember your vitamins A, D, and E, K, and you gotta be drinking lots and lots of water. For those of you who are not into health and fitness, I encourage you to check it out. That is the new trend that is happening, and that is by far going to be the biggest blooming industry within the next several years. Okay, people are not healthy these days. People are 30 years old finding out that they're not going to even live to be 35 because they just got hit with this intense type 2 diabetes. And their daughter's going to be graduating high school soon. They may not even be able to make it to see their daughter graduate if they don't change their habits. It's that serious, you guys. Diabetes Our health is that serious. People only develop diabetes because they're eating too much sugar and they don't exercise. Okay, remember, sugar is simply the most broken down forms of glucose, glycogen. And glucose is the body's main source of energy. It's a form of carb. Okay, when we have too many sugar within the bloodstream, our insulin won't pick it up because we already have enough within our cells. So the cell's not going to be picking up that sugar anymore, so it's just going to keep going through the bloodstream. That is how we get high blood sugar, because the cells are no longer taking it in because they don't need the energy anymore. And if we're not exerting the energy, we're just going to store it all either as fat, as anything else, which is going to cause type 2 diabetes and a whole lot of other problems. Yes, it gets down to a T like that. Eat only when you have earned hunger, and then take the best foods of the healthy people in the zone in which you live, and have perfect conditions, confidence that the results will be good. They will be. Do not seek for luxuries or for things imported or fixed up that tempt the taste. Stick to the plain foods, and when these do not, quote, taste good, end quote, fast until they do. Do not seek, quote, light foods, end quote, for easily digestible or, quote, healthy foods, end quote. Eat what the farmers and workmen eat. Then you will be functioning in a perfectly healthy manner, so far as what to eat is concerned. I repeat, if you have no hunger or taste for the plain foods, do not eat at all. Wait until hunger comes. Go without eating until the plainest foods taste good to you, and then begin your meal with what you like best. It's basically saying if the food's plain and you don't like it, wait till you're more hungry, okay? Because the amount of hunger that you feel is going to allow the food to taste better, okay? There's seasonings we have, okay? There's one called Mrs. Dash. There's no salt in it. This is one of the seasoning I use, okay? It's very, very good, okay? They have many different flavors. I also hear a lot about Flavor God. Okay, I've never had Flavor God before, but I heard they're pretty much the same as Mrs. Dash, and Mrs. Dash is a lot cheaper. For those of you who are, as of right now, in the same boat as me, okay, where we need to budget our money and actually use what we can use and use our resources wisely, because me, like you, along with the majority of people, we're not quite there yet, and we're doing our best to make it to where our life, we could actually live our lives comfortably without having to make so much sacrifices. And you know what? I'm not motivated by money like most people aren't, but yes, it is a necessity. I wouldn't even have had this book right now if I didn't have the $10, $20. As much as I don't like to say it, yes, it's that important. And money is not the root of all evil. Money is neutral. It's the love of money which produces evil. In deciding how to eat, a person must be guided by reason and can see that the normal states of hurry and worry produced by wrong thinking about business and similar things have led us to form the habit of eating too fast and chewing too little. Reason tells us that food should be chewed, and that the more thoroughly it is chewed, the better it is prepared for the chemistry of digestion. Furthermore, we can see that the person who eats slowly and chews his food to a liquid, keeping his mind on the process and giving it his undivided attention, will enjoy more of the pleasure of taste than he who bolts his food with his mind on something else. To eat in a perfectly healthy manner, man must concentrate his attention on the act with cheerful enjoyment and confidence. He must taste his food. He must reduce each mouthful to a liquid before swallowing it. The foregoing instructions, if followed, make the function of eating completely perfect. Nothing can be added as to what, when, and how. In the matter of how much to eat, man must be guided by the same inward intelligence, or principle of health, which tells him when food is wanted. He must stop eating at the moment that he feels hunger abating. And remember, abating means satisfying. He must not eat beyond this point to gratify taste. If he ceases to eat in the instant that the inward demand for food ceases, he will never overeat. And remember, what overeating does only causes a lot of indiscomfort and a lot of indigestion. and the function of supplying the body with food will be performed in a perfectly healthy manner. The matter of eating naturally is a very simple one. There is nothing in all the foregoing that cannot be easily practiced by anyone. This method put into practice will infallibly result in perfect digestion and assimilation, and all anxiety and careful thought concerning the matter can be at once dropped from the mind. Whenever you have an earned hunger, eat with thankfulness from the variety of natural foods before you, chewing each mouthful to a liquid, and stopping when you feel the edge taken from your hunger. The importance of the mental attitude is sufficient to justify an additional word. While you are eating, as at all other times, think only of healthy conditions and normal functioning. Enjoy what you eat. If you carry on a conversation at the table, talk about the goodness of the food and of the pleasure it is giving you. Never mention that you dislike this or that. Speak only of those things which you like. Never discuss the wholesomeness or unwholesomeness of foods. Never mention or think of unwholesomeness at all. If there is anything on the table for which you do not care, pass it by in silence or with a word of commendation. Never criticize or object to anything. Eat your food with gladness and with singleness of heart, praising God and giving thanks. Let your watchword be perseverance. Whenever you fall into the old way of hasty eating, or of wrong thought of speech, bring yourself up short and begin again. It is of the most vital importance that you should be a self-controlling and self-directing person, and you can never hope to become so unless you master yourself in so simple and fundamental a matter as the manner in the method of your eating. If you cannot control yourself in this, you cannot control yourself in anything that will be worthwhile. And I want to add something to that about mechanisms of attachment. If you haven't been with me in our series of the Master Key System, I want to share something with you from Lesson 6 of that book. And Charles talks about the brain of man. Now, the brain of man is the mechanism of attachment to where spirit is able to individualize himself within the body. Okay, it is through the brain. Okay, the brain, the reason man can recreate himself, change his conditions and environment, and completely make himself new in just one day. And he can do this because of the size of his frontal lobe. Okay, man has the biggest frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is set in the most activity. And when you're thinking, the frontal lobe is set into the most activity. Reasoning says that this is because the frontal lobe is the part of the brain which receives the most thought. Okay, there can be no other way. Why would this part of the brain be the most receptive and why would this part of the brain be set into the most activity while you were thinking if it wasn't the part of the brain that receives the most thought? And we learned that the only reason why man is above any other creature on this planet is simply because of his ability to think. It is man and his intelligence which makes him a creator and not just a mere creature. So, the brain, this mechanism of attachment. Okay, remember, you can literally change the structure of your brain simply by the way you think. If you think differently, you are changing the structure of this brain. Okay, he used the example in chapter 6 or in lesson 6 of an electric current compared to a battery circuit. Okay, the amount of energy that this battery is going to receive or generate depends on the circuit that it is attached to. Likewise with us. Okay, the amount of thought, the amount of character, the amount of thinking that we could actually respond to and become receptive to depends on our own mechanism of attachment, which is our brain. We must structure our brain in such a fashion and in such a way and create certain circuits to be open to certain vibrations. Remember, everything is vibrations. Okay, and whatever you are tuning yourself to is what you are going to be aware of. Do you love music? This is what he says. Do you love music, art, beauty? Remember, you cannot enjoy these things until you have a corresponding outline within your brain. Just thought I'd share that with you. And also, self-controlling and self-directing. I was also reading or listening to the science behind the being self-aware. When you're self-aware of your thoughts, when you're self-aware of the words you're saying, when you're self-aware of the actions you are thinking, you are creating your own circuit system of control, like your own control system within your brain. Okay, if you're not self-aware, you don't create that circuit, and you wouldn't always be aware of the thoughts you're having, or at least being self-aware of it anyway, in control of it. Very interesting. If you cannot control yourself in this, you cannot control yourself in anything that will be worthwhile. On the other hand, if you carry out the foregoing instructions, you may rest in the assurance that in so far as right thinking and right eating are concerned, you are living in a perfectly scientific way. And you may also be assured that if you practice what is prescribed in the following chapters, you will quickly build your body into a condition of perfect health. Now that will be the end of chapter 13 on In a Nutshell. And next we have chapter 14, which is on breathing. With that being said, you guys, if you made it to the end of this video with me, thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please share and subscribe. And come grow with me. We're here growing physically, mentally, and spiritually. Okay, so with that being said, I'll see you on the other side of the galaxy. And my brother had called me. I think it would be wise to call him back. So I'll see you. Bye.